Yeah, he's a remarkable horse. I must admit, I mean, to win Group or Grade 1s in 3 continents and so many different countries, it would be lovely to see him win a Group 1 here. Of course, he didn't shine in the King George at Ascot last July. But he's an amazing horse. It did make me think about the argument of geldings in championship races and the Arc and stuff, because I've always said that most geldings who win Group 1 races, you probably wouldn't have heard of them ever had they not been geldings, because otherwise why would you geld them? And I know that's an unpopular opinion these days, because we want entertainment, we want as many horses like Calandagan and Goliath to turn up for these big races. But has there been an unfair advantage conferred upon these horses by these colts by being gelded? I think so. And
where do you both stand on that? Were you talking earlier about Dave and Dubai Honour?
I've been a beneficiary of a couple of gelding operations aboard horses that wouldn't have amounted to being the horses that they were without it. So look, I've seen the positive effect it can have on a horse's career, and I just. It's a shame that the options are limited, but at the same time, I can completely understand why a race like the Arc stays as it is.
You're doing right by the horse. You're doing right by the horse.
100%.
You know, if it's the right thing for the animal, you know, there's some horses that just they benefit from it, you know, mentally, and if it means they can have even more longevity in their career, like.
Would you allow geldings to run in the Arc?
I know I come from a national hunt background. I love a gelding, so you know what, throw it in there. I mean, probably a very unpopular opinion, but. I
mean, I'm a yes. I think they should run in the race.
I don't think it's a, you know, I mean, I think it's a finely balanced argument. I say no.
I understand why not
for those reasons.
But I think if a colt is winning the race because the best gelding's not in it, is that a right reflection on the quality of the?
Are they a champion of the generation?
I mean, well, you know, I think there's almost a. I think this you could almost bring in the recent debate about transport in the way that in the way that your development is shaped as you grow towards a professional sports career, and in my view, I don't want a stallion, a colt, to be beaten in 3rd place in the Arc by Calandagan and Goliath. He's the only one that can contribute to the gene pool, and I want him to be able to celebrate 1st place and then go on. For all the obvious people say, well, look, he was only beaten by 2 geldings and they're not at stud. I understand that.
But the same way you want to have, like, you know, the best stallions out there. You know, like we look at the breeding operation here, you know, in England and everywhere else. That if they beat them, fantastic. You know, it's beating the best of the best, and that's.
In terms of the breeding industry, I think that's another. I think that's another thing that supports the argument that geldings shouldn't be allowed to run. That a prospective stallion should be able to win those races without running against horses who have, I think, an unfair advantage. But
if that's the case, then you're saying that there shouldn't be any geldings running against colts.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think that in an absolute elite level, I'm not saying that. Otherwise, I mean no, Rishi, that's not real.
That's taking it to the nth degree.
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
I guess.
That's
but
not realistic.
What's the point then of gelding operations? Isn't it to allow that horse to reach its maximum? Yeah,
but when you're talking about champions and future generations and the definition of champions, those horses have to reach that peak, that summit, by being able to run fast, by having their head in one place, by being able to do all those things. We just talked about Delacroix and the Derby. Now, if Delacroix were a gelding, or maybe he would be a bit calmer and wouldn't have unshipped.
Which I get that, but then they're winning races where they're not the best horse in that division. And therefore they've compiled a CV that's inflated.
Yeah, you think that the geldings are...
Well, no, if a horse runs in races where it's only limited to colts, then they're running in races where geldings aren't allowed to run, and a gelding might have been able to beat them. So that colt has won a race where their CV is now inflated because they've run against horses that weren't eligible, who could have beaten them. So it's a slightly false CV, is my thing.
Well, that horse has won a race in which horses who would have had an unfair advantage were not allowed to run. I don't think that's a problem any more than I think a colt should be able to run in the Oaks.
Well, we could have this discussion for much longer.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.